line A. Concerning how we are now handling, well, mostly mid-year homesteads, but, as well, they have, made some other changes. And so we'll just go through this and we will have to have a discussion on, I think that CPT can handle all of this. But if through the discussion, it's determined that we have to make some changes, obviously we will. Okay, so report the name and social security or ITIN of the person homesteading as of January 2nd, 2025. So that's not really a change. And so we're talking about assessment 2025 payable 2026. Include parcel data only for those homesteads that were occupied, okay? The homestead data file should include all homesteads as of January 2nd, regardless of eligibility for a refund. So we're already doing that, including relatives, homesteads. Mid-year homesteads for assessment 2025 should not be included in the 2025 homestead data file. Sure. We wouldn't be doing that now, I don't believe, because you would do your mid-years. Well, so this is kind of deceiving. When they say 2025 homestead data, that's the tax year. So that's our 2024, what we're working on now. So no, they wouldn't be included because by this point, you all have your new year files open. And so if you have anything coming in at this point, you would be making those changes in your new year files, which would be assessment 2026. So they wouldn't be included now. Okay. So what they are changing is that the duplicate homestead submission is no longer required. Yay? I mean, that's okay. One less thing to worry about. That should be good. The next thing they talk about, so before we go into the mid-year thing, let's just make sure that we're on the same page about the homesteads as of January 2nd, 2025. Those are not in our new year files. You would not, if there's a sale that comes in, you would not be maintaining in your current year files. You'd be maintaining in your new year files, which should be totally acceptable. Are we all on the same page there? Any disagreement there? Okay, so now for the thing that is changing, and that I presume is the definition of a mid-year. Because I think that we all felt mid-years included if you were homesteaded and there was a sale. And that was a mid-year because it was a new owner, even though it was still homesteaded. But now they are saying that that is not a mid-year. So, what is a mid-year? A property that is not classified as homestead on January 2nd of the assessment year, and an application for homestead is filed by a property owner and approved by the county assessor. This can occur in the following situations. Well, the main thing is a non-homestead property is purchased and occupied by a new owner or relative who meets the qualifications for a homestead by December 31st. I'm right, that is a change in how you're handling mid-year homesteads now, right? So when we talk about that and think about that, the question for us is there anything CPT needs to do concerning this new director? Any comments on the new director? So that you'd be willing to share? Okay, so that is the new way going forward. I don't think there's any problem in our system because, like I said, during that time where you have sales coming through and new applications for the coming year, you have both sets of files on. And by the time you get rid of them, you should be able to just move forward with the one set until you would create New Year, which some of you all create them quite early, totally fine. Then you have to make changes in both sets of files, as you well know. But, okay, so we're good there. Okay, moving on to the new tax laws. So when I said that I would do the new tax laws, I'm like, well, I should be about 2 minutes in and be done. But because this year, concerning our programming end of it, the legislature was not very busy at all for us. There was the big delinquency and tax forfeiture piece, but from what was determined, and we'll pick that up with the auditors in September, I don't really think we're gonna have any programming changes to do with that. So the only thing I saw that I questioned was in truth and taxation and property tax statements, this item about certain properties that they fall under Minnesota. They have, they have area-wide tax and they fall under Minnesota statute 276A.06, which I went and read that and I'm like, okay, I still don't know what this exactly means. And so then I went to the truth and taxation materials, and here we have the iron range, fiscal disparities, commercial and industrial. Notice examples. So look at that. No, we don't have any of this. We are good to go. So our estimated, I'm in North Dakota too. So our truth and taxation and our tax statements should be fine. This should not impact them at all, as far as I can tell. Next up is PRISM that we're all getting ready for. So the PRISM, what they deem as the changes for this year were actually already all in place when you did your PRISM 1. The homestead market value first tier increased from 2.15 million to 3.5. The homestead market value exclusion increased from 76 to 95 as well. The total value went up from 413,800 to 517,200. And the homestead market value exclusion definition has been expanded to include those community land trusts. That only a couple of our counties are actually blessed, but I believe. But if you are, it's all in place. There was a small change to how they handled the TI expansion districts that we got caught with. I didn't see it in the documentation, but I think they kind of changed things behind the scenes. And that would have been in PRISM 3. So we are making a change to PRISM 2 to take care of that. And that will be done and out by Monday. So by Monday, you should all be able to submit PRISM 2 if you wish. Okay, so after valuation notices this past year, there were a few items that came up. And, so we'll discuss them today, see what your thoughts are. The first being parcels that are classified as ag entities. So this is our assessment codes 106 and 108 are printing ag non-homestead and rural vacant non-homestead, which they are. Can you please switch this to read ag entity? Farmers do not want to see non-homestead. I see no reason not to make that change. Do I hear any pushback on that? Okay, in the line that reads, if this box is checked, your classification was changed from last year. Can you please reprogram this so it does not check the box if a homestead changes from a mid-year to a full? Okay. I don't know what that homestead directive, if this is still how it should be. Because now a mid-year is non-homestead to homestead. So what are we thinking about that statement?
If it's going from non-homestead to a mid-year, that should be checked, but if it's going from.
So it used to be that you did your mid-years, like even if they were homestead to homestead, right?
No, we never did.
Okay. So what was that, Carl? If it's going, it should be checked, right?
It should be if it's going from non-homestead to mid-year, then it should be checked.
I think I don't, Chris from Todd, are you here?
Not here, but I.
Oh, great.
The issue isn't if it goes from. The issue isn't if it goes from non-homestead to homestead, it's from mid-year to a full year. So if ours changes from a 5 to a 1, the box is checked, and we don't want that.
I would agree with that.
Because then it just confuses, they call and say, why is this box checked? Nothing changed. Or what changed? Well, nothing changed.
Okay, so what we should be really checking for is a non-homestead to a homestead. Otherwise, or vice versa.
Or a classification change or whatever.
Well, that too,
But not
I mean,
into, well, that's what our is.
okay, that's what I figured. So we're all good with that? Mike?
Any concern about the statutory part of that, with the TNT saying you have to do that, is that do anything with it? Because I think that's why the box exists, is because of that. But because you're not truly changing your homestead, is that any concern? I'm not saying I have a concern, I'm just asking.
Okay, so I don't know statutorily if that, I mean,
The TNT, that's all driven by the statute there. And
but we're talking about valuation notices here.
oh, I thought, but
No, this box is.
okay, yeah, and I guess it wouldn't be.
But it would be the same thing. It would be the same, Mike. If there's a statute, I'm sure.
I think check to see if the statute makes any difference, but if not, because you're actually going from homestead to homestead, it's just the word is changing. Not to have it checked, if the statute doesn't prevent you from.
Okay.
If it's less confusing, that's great. I think that's helping us, but.
But we have to make sure we're obeying. Yes. Okay, all right. And this is a fix we'll have to make if we update a selected parcel after notices are sent, so it's a correction. The classification change box should be relooked at as well, and that part is not currently being done. So that is just, something we have to look at and fix. Can we send the personal property mobile homes notice on forms that state 2024 assessment payable 2024? Using a real estate form for personal property is misleading. So how are you all handling that?
We already have that changed. So our valuation notice for personal property says 24, page 24.
So when you say you already have that changed, do you mean through your outsourcer?
Yeah, yeah, our valuation notices through our outsource for our personal property already say assessment 24 payable in 24. So then our steps are valuation notice, and then our step 2 says July, the tax statement comes out. We don't have a step 3 for TNTs or anything like that.
That's all through Monty, right?
Between Monty and Prima Data that we did that. So we've done that for probably 2 years already.
So I'm wondering if everyone is being handled that way.
There was one year where it was a mistake, I think, where they printed wrong.
Yeah. But we got that fixed, so ours, because it was so confusing to our
Yeah,
mobile home people that all of a sudden they gotta pay the same year that their assessment's coming out when it said they were paying the next year. So we talked to Monty and our outsource and got that changed.
so do they do a separate run for you from Center?
Well, not for us, that, not for valuation notices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Five.
So when we send our valuation notices off to Prima Data to our outsource, we send one that's real estate and one that's mobile home.
Mhm.
So they take the mobile home one or the personal property file and they put it on our personal property assessment
Right,
backwards.
the right forms.
The right forms, right?
What I'm wondering is if Forum Publishing is doing that for us. I know you can answer. Because if they are not, we should be looking into that and making sure they can do that for you. As well, for those of you who print those statements through our office, if you have the forms, we should be able to do that for you as well. If you do, like Bonnie mentioned, you accumulate your mobile homes separately. So you would get the right forms in there, of course. And then you accumulate your real estate, the big run by itself as well. So something to check out with your outsourcer, I would believe. And also our office, if you print in-house. I'm certain we can make that work for you. Okay. Next up. Please allow last year's assessment to print, even if there was a split on the parcel. Many of the changes made to the legal description do not affect the property value. I would rather explain the change in value than the blank column of unreported values. Okay. So I think part of this goes back to how a split is handled in parcel maintenance. And I know some of you handle parcel maintenance, but I believe the bulk of it takes place in the auditor's office. And at our meeting in September, we will be certain to bring this up there as well. But when you decide you're doing a split, so the F2 and parcel maintenance alerts the program that you are doing a split and you're going to save the description. So your choices here are, do you wish to save the description? And you can say no, which you're not actually doing a true split then, but yes, no, or M. And what the M is all about is it stands for maintenance only, meaning I'm really just correcting something on here. This isn't like a whole different parcel or a combined or anything like that. So if that M is used, then when we get to valuation maintenance and TNTs as well the tax statements, we still print that other line of the previous year values, whether it be values or tax amounts or whatever we're doing. So that is where that all comes into play. So I looked at the code just to make sure of that. And one thing I discovered is that there is hard coding in there for Meeker County and Mille Lacs County that no matter what, we print the other line of values as long as they're there. So if there was no parcel at all, of course, we aren't putting values over there, the NA would come into play. This was done in 2010. I am sure assessors have changed since then in both those counties. I don't know if you even know this is being done for your county, but it is. And so that's the first thing to really think about here is, first of all, on those two counties, do you agree with that? And we'll have to reach out to you and ask you, but as a whole, when we talk about e-tax and then we talk about this question here, is this something that should be an option in our valuation notices? Would you see that as something you would want? And what that means, what I'm really talking about, I'm not even talking about the M anymore. I'm talking, because that's already being done. I'm talking about, this is a true split. And for those two counties, it says, well, I don't care. I don't really care. I don't care if you're in the split description file. I don't care if you're an M or a Y. I don't care. I am printing the previous year values if I have that.
On the new parcel that you created, it's gonna print.
Okay, new parcel, Carl, no previous year parcel. We don't have anything. We're really talking about splits where you keep the same one. And then you just change that description. And in this,
Isn't that just a change parcel or like a description update?
it is, but I'm sure that there's a split description saved, and because it really changes maybe acres and all of that. And first of all, we would never do this for everyone without a question. I'm just asking if you think we need the question. Because I don't know what in the end Mille Lacs and Meeker are going to say now that they have new assessors that weren't there in 2010. And I don't know if they even realize that's what's happening, but it is happening. And so the question is, would others see a need for that we would ask that question? Or should we just not and go with the M? And try and train everyone that uses this on what the M actually means. Need some time to think about that one?
I think people understand what the question really is, like,
Okay,
because I'm still struggling with this a little bit too, is like, if I'm gonna change the legal description, that's a change. But I always was under the understanding that my values on my original parcel were always coming forward anyways. So if my value was $1 million and I split it and now they split off the house and the land is 750,000 and the house is 250,000. It's gonna show my house is gonna be the original parcel at 250,000. And it's gonna show that last year was $1 million. It doesn't now,
It never did.
never did. Even though I didn't.
Not,
create it.
well, okay, okay.
So my
It
land is.
depends how you answered this question here. If you put, is this, do you wish to save the description, meaning last year's, when it was the 750 or the million or
Yep.
whatever?
Yep.
And you say yes. No, it printed NAs in that column.
So it might be how the auditors are.
Yes, it is.
Their auditor doesn't maybe have to wear.
And that's why we're going to go through this with the auditors in some.
See, and I do the splits in ours.
You do them
I
yourself.
do the splits.
And there are a few others here, I think Stevens, right, Craig? Yeah, I mean, there are a few, so that's why we're going through this here, because the ones that do this maintenance need to understand it. And so, most of you, no, but some of you, yes, you do this. And that's how you're answering it, and if you answer that with a yes, this is a true split or combined, could be that too. Then you will print NAs in that column.
Sounds like it might be helpful for us to put out, make a document
Yeah.
that explains the why and M, and then you all can share it with whoever's doing that for you and have a conversation about how you'd like that handled.
And then maybe we can get to the point of asking the original question. Which is, and also, like you said, the recorder, so whatever we come up with the document needs to go to the right place. And sometimes at CPT, we have a little, like, we don't all have all the recorders emails, or they don't even get our enhancement letters, probably. So that's another thing that's kind of fun. And maybe you can help us with that. If your reporters are making those types of changes, they should be on our enhancement letters. Hopefully you read them. But anyway. Okay, so this is what we'll do then. We'll first make the document in our office. We'll send it out, and then after that, there will be some type of a survey about how you're feeling about this question, because, and this would be for e-tax, this would be for the new tax. We wouldn't be doing this in our old system. And we'll personally be reaching out to Mille Lacs and Meeker to make sure that this is what they really want, because it's there. Okay? All right, we'll leave that right there. Okay, so now, so we have a little a smaller group that's called our e-tax user group that meets. Haven't met for a while now, but that doesn't mean we stopped working on e-tax, e-CAMA, but we just haven't had a need for like bigger questions. So, but anyway, at our last meeting, what we talked about was our CAMA land calc system. And so this rewrite has dragged on. There's no other way to put it. And so part of the problem with making big enhancements on the green screen is that we always then have to go to e-tax, and anything we think we have done, then we have to tear it apart and get those new enhancements in. So ultimately, other than law changes, you've kind of been sitting here like for a number of years. And so now we are at the point where we've got a lot of our CAMA and land calc kind of programmed. If we're still working on it, but we're pretty far along. And so we can start thinking about the future. And the future is that we need to make sure we can help you do your work. And sometimes when we, the support people, probably more so than myself, know more what your work is, but ultimately, we still sit in the office. We aren't out there doing what you do. So we need help knowing how to help you. And now is the time to start working toward that. So back to our user group, we went through and came up with some suggestions. And Mike from Polk was gracious enough to share this document with some of his thoughts and a few others, and you are totally welcome to share your thoughts. We're gonna go through these, but what I mean by that is other thoughts on how we can help you do your work with ECAMA and landfill. And ultimately, when we get to the assessor's portion of tax, that will be a question as well. Okay, the first one, which I have to laugh because a few of the easy things. And I'm like, I'm looking at this going, okay, out of all of them, I think this might be the hardest thing, but okay. Well, we'll go with easy. Would be to add the coefficient of deviation, the price related differential, a ratio figured for even number of sales. And then Mike called out Laura by name. Laura, remember that ACS had a separate box with this information? And if they had anything else, and the other thoughts were square dollars per square foot, bedroom or unit possible. So we would need direction on that, of course, to do it, and Mike did also send me some direction, but it talks about jurisdictions, which I assume are township cities. Okay, a number of sales hitting 30. But then you must also compare like property types. And I don't know if our sales ratio system has that comparison right now. That would have to be determined and added if we need it. But ultimately, if we got those pieces working, would that be something of interest here?
Isn't that already partially in there, an option 4 in the sales ratio,
You mean the listing?
the listing?
Yes. But what Mike is talking about is having that readily available to you, like when you would go into a maintenance program, there would be a box up there that would show you these things. Right?
Yeah, ACS, the system I used before I came here, that every time you run a report, they would always have the CODs, PRDs, all of that in a separate box. Now, what they did do is they would figure it out for 1 sale, 2 sales, 3 sales, which a lot of that now doesn't matter until you reach 30 sales. But it was something that was nice that just, I mean, the information was already there based on your selections. It was nice to have for enhancing the system.
So you, just to be clear, you are talking about being able to see this in your maintenance program, like CAMA parcel maintenance?
When you run a report, sales ratio report, that's where you'd be bringing that information in. You're running your PT 91s or your killable and what have you. And then that would show up in that report that you ran based on your selections.
Okay.
You got this jurisdiction, Cyrus, city of Morris or whatever you're running, and you have 150 sales. And here is your ratio. Now, I know the ratio appears, in there, but in ACS system, it was always a separate box from what I remember. It would have all of this data in there. It might be nice to have that.
Okay,
It's already,
but it was on a report. It was not just fluidly recalculating all the time. You had to do the calculation and it came out on the report. Okay. Well, that would make it a bit easier.
Right, Laura? Okay.
I think part of that's already built into the system.
Part of it is. But I know it isn't all built in. So we would be willing to look at that if there's interest. Okay. Sales ratio, add the ability to select what EMV year you would be using. And if you're working with a what if. So in one report in sales ratio, we do already have this. It's the statistical line item report. At the bottom, it says use CAMA market values, yes or no. And if you say yes, you get to choose any library, including your what if libraries. So I think what we're talking about is something like this being enhanced to other listings as well, or
Right, it was the sales listing when you're figuring out your values at the end of the year and you're adjusting your values up or down. Currently, I think what I'm doing and a lot of people are doing, using the Department of Revenue's worksheet that they send out, creating a new column, adding your values in there based on this. And I guess if you have something for like your land values that you can bring in to it existing in the system, that's fine. I didn't realize something like that was out there, that you could do a what if file, change, add 20% to your land values or your building values, add those in, run your ratios based on that. Right now, I'm taking all those values. If I add 10% to my my values, I add that into my Excel file, and then I figure out what the values are there, and therefore my new ratio.
so you're talking about this,
Yes,
although I mean, it says 2024, but it can be any.
oh, right,
Right.
I do my new column for 2025, what my January 2nd, and I use the same, the adjusted value, sale price. And then I come up with my ratio. Now I have to add that in. If I had 20% and I need 25, I go in and I adjust those values to the new. I do it, it's cumbersome, but I was just thinking if I could run that in the system, get closer, or have that automatic where I can just select my what if I'm adding value changes there and just run the report on the fly, it'd be more convenient. But again, if that exists, perfect.
Okay, so that one does. However, let's just go right into the what you're talking about, your spreadsheet from the DOR. So what I did is, and this has to be tweaked some in our new report generator. It isn't quite there. But I just went into the CAMA report generator and ran parcel and total market value. So that was like a separate spreadsheet. But what I did then is I just created a blank and pasted it right in, and then went back here and put this formula in, which tied back, of course, by parcel number to what our market value was. And I think you told me, Mike, that you go in and I'm sure all of you, if you use this, and type them in by hand, right? So obviously, we wouldn't want you to have to do that. We can just pull it down. Anyhow.
And that takes into account if you have a sale that has multiple parcels in it.
Well, I looked at this and I did not see any multiples in here. And so in the original DOR spreadsheet they send you, there's multiple parcels in here.
Well, from what I remember, it was just the primary, and then you have to go into your sales system and you have to find out if there was 6 different parcels associated with that. And so you have to go in and figure out which ones you're also changing and add those together. And it can be time consuming, especially with the agricultural parcels. So if you're doing that,
Okay, so that would not make this impossible. What it would make this is that we would have to do this through a program. We would have to look at your sales ratio, and we would have to gather up those parcels. And then you would have to tell us what CAMA values library you wanted to use, because it might be your current 2024-25, or it might be a what-if library. And then we would have to use the primary parcel and generate that total market value. Which only is a problem if there's two sales of that primary within the same year. Because then, sure, we can generate it here, but then when we get back here, it doesn't, it's gonna hit the first instance and take that. But we can get you a long ways before that. That's the only thing I can think of that would really throw a wrench into this, is if your primary parcel was involved in two sales in the same year, because then it would show up here twice. And back here, it doesn't know what to do with that. Because it always takes the first instance. Okay, so people, you use this, yes, this would be useful. Because once we get this far with these values, the rest is pretty easy here. Okay, so what we need to do is through sales ratio, we're gonna have to generate something that we know when there's multi-parcel sales. And I didn't realize that when I looked at this, I'm like, oh, cool, they must only put the parcel in the sale more than once, but okay. All right. Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's go back and keep moving along here. Okay, this is the one we did, this one we did, okay. Time trend addition to sales. We do have this already in the system. So I would wish to ask Douglas County how this works. I know we corrected it just recently, finally got it corrected. And anyone else that would use our time trend sales.
It works.
Is anybody at Douglas willing to, okay, Pam, all right.
I just went to, once the report comes with a time trend on, I know there's a place in sales ratio where you go and you can put them in there. So you can run reports with the trends.
Okay, so it's as easy as that, right?
That's all I.
Okay,
You just have to make sure your decimals are in the correct place.
do you use a tube, Carl?
Yes.
Okay. And I think there was some back and forth on that when we first got started with those decimals too. But at this point, you have to be careful.
Yes. And then I use that listing that's up further. The one that, this one here, because I'm also, because you can, that's where all your sales come through and they're time adjusted. And
Yeah.
they're fairly close to like what the states are for when they calculate it. It's within a margin of error that should get you close enough.
Okay. Okay. Okay, and this, planning this already, but worth mentioning, all reports should automatically run into Excel and PDF. Yes, that is one of the first things that we thought of or brought into play in our new e-tax e-CAMA system. That all reports would go to Excel as well. I mean, PDF is just like your school file now, so Excel is the biggie. Okay, reporting in land health, just like CAMA, being able to pull out land types and all of that. So what we are planning and I don't know if that's going to be up next when we talk about report generator. But we want to bring land calc into report generator, just like CAM. It's a little bit there now, but not to the extent it needs to be. So that is a plan. Okay, is there any way to get the total square footage of a mobile home to show up on the total square footage on the top of the screen? So what's happening is they have a 1/B, which, as you see here, is 456 square feet, and that's what goes up here, because in our system currently, that's all that goes into the total square footage is our house types. And what they're asking is, and then of course, they value their porches and additions on that total square footage. But they have this other mobile home sitting down here that they would like into the total square footage. So when they go to get that porch base rate, that would be calculated in. Any thoughts on that? My only thought on how we could even do such a thing, and then we'll get back to, is that we would have to know through a flag in our category maintenance setup, we would have to know what you want added in to here. So obviously, when you went into the house types, you would say, yes, add it to, it would be a yes or no question, add it to the total square footage of the house. And the second, and then when we went into this category, which, I mean, I don't know what it is, but you would say yes as well. So what we would do is when we go to give the total square footage and add it up, we would look for that flag in all type ones. Now, when I say type ones, I mean category type 1 that goes on the QTA house screen. So thoughts on that? Am I explaining it well enough that you understand what I'm asking?
I think it'd be very helpful to have that up there. For mobile homes. We have enough that, when people are actually looking, like even on our, to people coming in and looking, they're like, well, it's only saying it's 456 square feet, but yet they've got this 28 by 70 double wide that has this 456 square feet added to it. But they're not looking for that, because they're just looking at the total square foot up there. So I think it would be very helpful to have it.
And as well, as was stated here, that's what's used to go to your porches with your total and additions and decks, and if you do it that way, that's the number we use. Okay, we can look at enhancing that. I mean, it won't be tomorrow, but it's an enhancement that we can certainly look at making. Okay, when a parcel has been removed or inactivated in tax, and you are moving through the parcels with an F6, meaning next parcel, you're just going through, and you come upon a parcel in HAMA that has been deleted, or it's gone completely, or whatever, you have to do something with it. You get this nice window that pops up, and you have to do something. And the question that came is, well, yeah, but I don't really know what this is, and I can't look at what the current data is. You're asking me to transfer a copy, but I don't even know what I'm copying or transferring. Anybody have this problem? Okay, so what we did is in our e-tax, we did address this. And this is how we decided to address it. It's not completely done yet, but it started enough that I can. Why is it doing this? Looks a little better. Okay, so this is a value record that was deleted and it will still bring this window up. But what we decided to do was to let you go to inquiry. Which I'm assuming will come up here shortly. And so at this point, it's just bringing you here. We can't move through the. Why do I have like half screen? Yes, thanks. Okay, so right now we can't actually move through the screens, but you will be able to. So the whole point is you'll be able to at least go and see what it is you're being asked to split, combine, copy, whatever. So that's our plan for that. As well, we are adding an actual activity flag to our Canvas system. So if you decide in the end, okay, I know I have to do something with this, but I don't know exactly what, you can inactivate it and come back to it later. As well, one of the next things on the list, and I'll just different colors for different years on the screen. When bouncing back and forth between years, it's not apparent you're in an older year. Okay, so just a question of this up here as we move through the years. Will change. Is that, and the year down here changes as well, though you changed it yourself, but is that enough to see that? Because all of our screens, our programs in e-tax tell you what assessment payable year you're in at the top.
For me, I know it can definitely be confusing if you have to look back in older years, and it's basically the only difference is the top, dates. If you're checking back at what it was last year, the year before, in your Canvas, in your tax. And you have these things, and then you may be able to manipulate your data, and you don't realize you're in the old year, except at that top little bar. If the screen was a different color, something was there, it was flashing. I don't know, it'd be nice to have it looks so identical, and sometimes you don't.
So you're not actually talking about inquiries, right?
Well, between your tax side and your Canvas side, if you go back into older years, it looks virtually identical
Oh, that's
except for
right,
the
yeah.
top. Always has. If it was, even a different color, something was there that was just different, so you just know. I usually check it and close it down, I know that probably doesn't work for everybody, just so I don't screw it up.
So are you talking about checking it through, so you're actually in maintenance? Okay, okay. This is inquiry, so you're not gonna change anything here. So let's go back.
Before you leave, can I,
Yes.
at the bottom where you switch from years past, is there a way that we could have like a fast forward button? Because if you're back in 2020, instead of going click, 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 could we just have one button that would bring it all the way to the right? So where you have your one that you can go.
Yep, you can type in that box. And you can go back, well, as far as you have. Like 1995.
What about if, so say you have your current year and your new year open, anything older than current year and new year, could you lock it to where even when you're in the inquiry, you can't change anything?
Okay, so currently, you are able to do that. And,
When you're in maintenance?
so it all depends on how your security is set up. So, you must have the highest, so you are able to maintain values in history. But not everybody is able to do that, and that's done through security. You can have people in your office that you say, okay, current year, new year, that's it. Anything that they would go into maintenance prior to that, they can't maintain the values. Now, I don't know if that's actually here, so we're gonna have to look into that piece. Because I can certainly understand that you wouldn't want values changed in prior years unless there was a really, really good reason.
Is there a way to know who has what securities for other, like for people within their county?
Yeah, we can get that for you if you just drop an email to Jeff and we can get that for you. Jeff, by the way, is racing in Jamestown, North Dakota. Lucky him. Okay, so we will get out of this one. And let's see what our next thing is. Here. Okay, change reporting. We have our F8 shift F10 that those would change from year to year. Could this be a report that we use? So let's just go into, we're still not the deleted ones. So just pointing out one nice thing here is I have the summary way down here, so when I hit next, I would have to go through all of this and I just, oh, I want to see the summary, so I just popped it right up here after the main parcel, and when I hit next, that's what I will see. So just remember that.
And we'll save that.
Yes, by user. It will save it by user. Right now you have something to that effect, but it's by county, the order of your screens. Okay, and then I don't want to see that right now, so I'm just gonna collapse that, and here we have. Does everyone know what the summary screen is that we're attempting to get to here?
Well, we're running the Zoom through the same. You're running a phone also.
Well, I don't know if we can kind of continue this if it's this slow. Let's see where I'm at. Okay, so if you know what screen we're talking about, that has the comparison on it. The question was having a report like this. And you see what I'm talking about. It shows you like 3 years back, your current year and 2 years back. And so all these questions don't need to be answered today. We're just throwing them out there and you can think about them. And what we will probably do is send out something with the things we talked about today, and your county can then answer. Yeah, I think we'd use it. No, I don't think so. Category table creation. So I'm just gonna read this and I'm not gonna go into it because we're going a little long here, but this talks about going. I am going to go into that. When working with tables, being able to print, copy off of those things and drop into Excel. That is in our new system. Yes, you can do that. You can download it. You can make your changes. We incorporated either percentage or a dollar amount. You can do it to the whole cell and you can upload it. And I'm just going to mention that another thing we did is when we download, we're downloading it in 2 worksheets called your original, which you can't change, and your editable one, which you can change. And the reason being, you can make your changes, you can upload them, and what if you get them uploaded and you say, oh my God, what was I thinking? That's not right. So what you can do is you can go back to this download and you can pick your original table and bring it back. So just trying to help you all out. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is category and table creation maintenance must be made simpler to use. Okay, yeah, it is pretty complicated. And it mainly talks about the F2 adjustment. Being able to have multiple adjustments that you can use to different, that you can attach to different categories. So the answer to that is that that is actually already there. And I'm just going to pop into category maintenance and show you this and then show you a parcel. So let's go. This is much nicer in the office when it moves quickly.
We were having internet problems here, so we're running everything through my hotspot. So it's a little overwhelmed right now.
With VPN.
Yes, with VPN.
So when you get into an adjustment category, one of the questions you're asked at the top is what category you are adjusting. And you are able to attach more than one category to that. So what I typed in, a 371, is pole adjustments. And I just went and attached that to all other buildings. So then when I go into maintenance and I am on the other building screen and do my adjustments, it doesn't matter which other building I go into. It's attached and you can use it. As well, you can, like for my garages, I attached my garage adjustments and I also attached this other building pole adjustment just for funsies. And so when I go into the other building screen and I put in a garage, they all show, all of them. And I can pick any one that I want and attach that adjustment to it. That was done a few years back, and this, I mean, I think what will really help our new system is that we're going to have online help. So when things are done like this, if we put it in our help and we point you to a new enhancement, that at least it will be apparent that something was changed, done, enhanced, whatever. And I think we're just going to give up here. So anyway,
Hold on, when by online help, are you talking about the
question mark up at the top.
document that'll be available for every screen to
Yes.
tell you everything you can do? So if you're like, I think something changed here, you click on that question mark and you get basically for the screen. And the manual will show you what all the things you can do on that screen.
Okay, so any questions? You're probably ready for me to go.
I have a question, and it goes back to we were talking about evaluation notices and changes that you wanted to be seen. We would like a big fat 0 to print if there is no new construction. We literally got hundreds and hundreds of calls, and then it's a darker, it prints out new construction, and then there's nothing because they had no new construction.
Mhm.
Can we get a 0 printed if there is no new construction?
Sure we can.
Yay! It'll cut down our calls by probably 50%.
Well, that would be a good thing.
It literally looks like there should be something there with
Yeah,
all
I
that
get that.
core prints. So,
Okay, we will make note of that.
they did it for. What is that for anymore?
Or we'll add it for you if you ask them to.
We printed out.
If you print in-house, that's not helpful. Okay, we're gonna go into our presentations next. Did anyone not get their name on this? We would like to collect all of your names. I'll circulate it to anyone who did not get their name on it. There's a couple people. We'll start here and you can just send it back. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna skip ahead in the agenda a little bit. I wanted to talk to you guys about the MP social security number edit listing. And this is typically done with the PTR property tax refund. That was done in April. Did you guys have any questions, when you're going through this process? In April, and I know this is passed already, but it worked well for everybody? And going on to the social security number edit listing, we want you guys to be looking at this all year long, doing any edits you need to be doing. So that when it comes to different times of the year, this stuff is done when there's changes, splits, etc. And I just pulled up a little report that shows exactly, you know, what's going on, what changed, etc. And you can find this menu tax sum 11, your social security menu, and then option number 2, compare social security number name to current name. So this is what this report is showing you. Okay. Another report that we'd like you to run, and this one can be done all year long as well, is the compare social security number name to current name. So if there was changes, etc., this report is going to show you. And this one also has an error column, so you can see what exactly what changed and why, if you need to make changes on it or not. Again, this is in that social security menu, option number 2. And then going on to cross-county sequence. Of course, assessors finish their assessment. You maintain your cross-county records for MP groups originating in your county, which are your Y records. The assessor provides cross-county values to neighboring county assessors. Again, this is your Y records. And the assessor receives cross-county values from neighboring county assessors, which are your N records. Maintain cross-county records for groups originating in neighboring counties. And are you guys all familiar with the process? And it's working well for you guys? Keep in mind, only homesteaded parcels are to be put into cross-county. If they are non-homesteaded parcels, there is no advantage putting them into cross-county maintenance. And I have a listing here, maintain cross-county records for your MP groups originating in your county, which are your home county Y records. On this listing, you're going to see on the right-hand side, these are your Y records. It's just a listing that shows different groups, etc.
Go back to the report. Otherwise, can we get words of land and building? We just have to put total on those columns, the total land, the total building. Total acres.
Just changing the heading, right?
Yeah.
Just changing the heading, total land, total building, total acres.
And just a reminder, there is an additional option on the cross-county maintenance screen. It is the sequence number located on the bottom right here. This is for counties that have taxpayers who own parcels in multiple more than 2 counties. And for an example, if you have a farmer that farms in the corners of Grant, Douglas, Stevens, and Polk counties, you would enter each of the different counties as a separate sequence number. And how you get the separate sequence number, when you add in your information on the bottom, just field exit through that sequence and it'll bring up the next sequence number for you. If the taxpayer only has property in one other county, the sequence number will always be 1. If you have a second county involved when entering the cross-county information, that sequence number would be 2, 3, 4, etc., however many counties are involved. Here's an example on the left here. Enter the other county's MP number. This is for the ease of matching them up to your county parcels and other counties' ag value. This is needed to calculate ag credit. And then on the right-hand side, if you have a second or third county with homesteaded ag value, that should be used for the calculation of ag credit. Enter their information in sequence numbers 2, 3, 4, etc. So you can see the different. This is sequence 1, sequence 2. Sequence 1 is always your county. The other sequences are the other counties. So the assessor provides the cross-county values to the neighboring county assessors. Again, home county is Y records. This is located on tax menu 10, option number 2 within the tax capacity calculation and abstracts menu. And then menu tax 12, option number 11, list carryover values. And this is a listing, and this is example only, but there are additional listing options to list the detail. You can do selected assessment codes and selected counties, etc. The listings will print each county on a separate page. And after the assessor receives the cross-county values from the neighboring county assessors, which are again your home county Y records. As you provided values for your Y records to your neighboring counties, they will provide you with values for their Y records, which are your N records. If the neighboring county is part of the mid-state co-op, the listing you receive will be similar to the listing you provided to the neighboring counties. If the county is not part of the mid-state co-op, the listing will appear differently, but should provide the same sort of data. And I have an example of maintaining the cross-county records for MP groups originating in neighborhood counties, which are the N records. And again, menu tax M10, go to option number 2, tax capacity calculation and abstracts. Then you're on menu tax M12, option number 1, maintain carryover value. When you're entering a new cross-county parcel, you will enter in the MP number, the choice, the county number, and then simply field exit through the sequence number. And it will be added. You will receive this message right here. It says, this is a new public parcel for cross county. Please enter a Y or N in the home county. After entering that N, this screen will appear. And then you'll enter your assessment code, your homestead code, and the county number and sequence number will be pulled in from the previous screen. Note, the house, garage, site values must be included in the land and building values. If this belongs in a multiple county group, only put in the values that will come before your parcel. Those values will be used to calculate the correct tax capacity and ag credit if applicable. And here's another example. You are counting 2 out of 3 counties involved in this parcel. This makes you sequence 1, but you will not put in the 3rd county's information, as that will then come into tax capacity calculation before your parcel, which will calculate the wrong amounts for tax capacity tiers and ag credit. Here's an example of how to enter it. And here's another scenario. How can I get the system to generate my values for the county that comes after me? Those values that you do not put into my system. If you are the middle county of 3, you will also need to send your values to that county so they can put them into their cross-county file. In the past, most of you have been typing that information into an email and sending it to them. The illustration below is for the ease of sending the 3rd county your value information without having to track it manually as in the past. You can enter $1 in the land value along with the 3rd county's number. Note, the sequence number is 2, as you do not put your own value information into the cross-county system. Does that make sense? It will show up in inquiry that there are 2 other counties tied to your parcel. And an MP inquiry will show you the dollar value telling you that it is in here so that you can list your values and send it to that county. So this is a nice little spot right here that says this parcel is involved in 2 different counties. And then here on MP inquiry, you'll see that dollar value. At this point, you may be in a position to recalculate your tax capacity values. Refer to the assessor's tax recalculation statement. Any questions on cross county?
Right, we have lunch. So, if you came after some of our goodies had run out, they have been restocked. Feel free to visit that back table and grab whatever goodies you'd like. Otherwise, we have, lunch ready in the back. And we will call you back up here in about an hour, around 12:30, to get started, the afternoon. And now we're recording. All right. Shannon's gonna share with us. Right? Yeah, okay. Hello, I'm gonna share the Assessor's New Year's sequence with you. Some of you have already done this and some of you have not. We are actually going to send the sequence out to you at the end of the year, but if you do want to do this earlier, you can reach out to us. We can email the sequence out to you. So completing the sequence gives your office the ability to create, maintain data for assessment year 25, page 26. And just remember that you must create the new year Camelland Calc files before you can create the tax billing new year files. Most of the steps that we're going to be taking are in the data processing menu, which is tab M02. And the first one is rebuilding the index file, which this is actually an optional step. Your county should be running this automatically in the evenings to update your files, but if you have made changes during the day to your files, then you will want to rebuild the index file while you're doing this sequence. And with most of the steps in this sequence, everyone must be signed out of the tax billing file. Then the next step is to back up your tax files, and that is step number 11 on the backup, and it's back up your tax files. And it'll ask you the question, do you wish to do an online save of your tax files? And you'll just put in a Y for yes. And this step will take a few minutes, but then once it is done processing, it'll say your tax files are now saved with an online save. And the next step is your system file maintenance, and that is in the maintenance, the number 1 maintenance system file. And again, everyone should be signed out of this, out of the tax billing files. When you go to the maintain general information, you will change only the assessment year to 2025. You'll leave the payable year. And after changing the assessment year to 25, make sure you press enter a couple of times and then do an F3 to save the new assessment year. If you don't hit enter a couple of times before pressing F3, then your new assessment year won't be saved. The next step is to create your new year value file. Again, everyone must be signed out of the tax billing system. And this step will copy the current value file to create the new year value file. It also creates the new year index file. And it creates the previous year value file for assessment year 2024 payable 2025. And lastly, it will reorganize the new year files, and the reorg will remove deleted taxpayers, value records, and parcels. And when you run this, make sure that you run it locally and not on the job queue. Then the next step is to, you'll do a new year value reset. And again, everyone must be signed out of the tax billing files. When you do this reset, it will remove the X if you have entered that in the taxable flag field, but the P for plat in the taxable flag will stay there. That won't remove this. It also will change your mid-year homesteads to full homesteads. It'll zero out the new construction and improvement field. The plat lot file will be updated, and then the tax capacity values are calculated as well. And when you do this, we suggest that you verify your mid-year new construction, VETS exclusion, VETS mid-year, homestead exclusion, and plat lot parcels. And keep in mind that we subtract homestead exclusion to arrive at a taxable market value. And the steps, I have screenshots of how to do that. And then the next step is optional again, which is to rebuild your index files. Once again, everyone should be signed out of the tax billing system. You can choose not to do this if you just want to wait and let your automatic nightly end of day rebuild the indexes. However, if you want people to be able to go into inquiry and look at the new data, then you will want to rebuild your index files. Once all these steps are done, you can process all your name changes, splits, transfers, etc. And you can begin the new year. Taxpayer, alternate owner changes, the parcel descriptions and evaluation maintenance. But keep in mind that when you do this, you'll get a message that will ask you, are you maintaining, listing, or acquiring parcels for the 25-26 tax year? And if you enter a Y for yes, you'll be working with your 25-26 files, your new year files. And if you enter no there, you will work with your 24-25 or your previous year files. The next step is transferring your CAM and land count files, and Jeff actually is one who supports those. And so if you do have questions on that, you can reach out to him. The transfer doesn't need to be done at this time, as you will be transferring assessment year 25 payable 26. And the previous steps of the assessor year in sequence must be completed before the CAM land count values are transferred. And then lastly, we recommend that you should list and prove your new year values, and there's two different ways you can check those. You can go to tax M11 to list parcel valuations, or to tax C10 to value proof listing to do that. Does anybody have any questions? Comments?
Y'all are in food coma. So we get through doing this after lunch. So my slides are at the end. I get to talk about the fall mini abstract and the full abstract. We sent out these sequences earlier this week, so hopefully it's kind of fresh in your minds. We'll start with the fall mini. We're prepping for Prism, like Gwen said. Hopefully we'll have that out to you next week. And then we're going to shift gears just a little bit when we move into the abstract sequence. But for your fall mini, you're going to update and proof your land count data, update and proof your tax data, and then accumulate and list your abstract. So in land calc, I mean, most of you know more than I do, but for those who maybe don't, in land calc, you can proof your data using option 14, your parcel summary listing. So when you go in there, keep in mind, this one's great because you can pick a portion of your county to look at.
You can look at only select land types or land classes, print, different zones. This is the one. Oh, yeah, you can't see it because it's down here where it's cutting off. This is the one where once you make your choices, it'll say, do you want to give section totals? So if you're looking for the sections around your border, that's where you would go to look for those section totals. Feel free to play around. The screen is zoomed in, but I tried to get it zoomed out. And oh, I was trying to zoom the projector. Okay, so you can see your section totals. Play around with that, get different listings. Then the tax billing acre edit. You can check your data here and make changes as necessary. Maybe some of this you meant to have happen, maybe some of it you didn't, but the system is comparing our land calc acres and our tax acres. It's telling you when there's something looks goofy. And then the tax billing land edit. You can go in here and set this up. This is, these are all editable, so make sure it's the way you want it to do. And then we're going to take a F22 to print our edit listing in here. And again, it's going to tell you when something looks goofy between your land calc data and your tax billing data. And you can decide if that's how you want it to be or if you want to make changes. All of those listings are in land calc and are great. Even if you don't use our land calc, before you do a transfer, they're a great way for you to check between your land calc, or before you move forward, check between your land calc and your tax billing, make sure it's the way you want to do it. The next thing we suggest you do is your 2 system edits. Option 19 and option 20 on tax M11. You are going to want to fix all terminal errors. This screen is where you get to pick your warning errors. And if there's any that you don't want to see, you can put X's. And if you're seeing more than you want to for these ones that are blue, you can edit those values and say, no, I only want it if it's changed more than 15% or 10% or 20% or whatever you want to do. Not all the warning errors, but you have to fix, but you will probably want to look at them. Then there's prism edits. So they're in tax M12, option 10. Prism edits, we have 6 prism edits. The acre edit and the land edit are going to look like those edits that we ran in land calc. You can do them here too. They're comparing land calc data to tax data. 4 through 6, same thing. They're comparing land calc data to tax data and telling you when something looks goofy between them. And 3, that's looking at the classes, the state classes, the land calc classes, and they're listing when something looks goofy. It'll give you a listing. Not again that you necessarily have to change it, but go take a look. Make sure everything is really the way you want it to be. Once all of your data looks good to you, you can accumulate your abstract. When you accumulate your abstract, our system will assume that you have all of your ag parcels in your land calc module. If you don't have certain cities or townships in your land calc model, if you have ag that's not in your land calc model, you would list those here and we will run it appropriately, not look in land calc for that data. We're going to pick 2 for our fall mini. And then you go in and you set up your mini, build these connections. If there's something that you want to fill in that maybe wasn't there before, or if you want to change something and you're not sure, you would hit an F2 and it'll prompt you to give you a listing of how you want those connected, connecting your classes to your abstract. And it will give you 3 edit listings. Don't forget to go back and check your edit listings and correct as many errors as possible. The first 2 edit listings are kind of connected. One of them will be individual parcels and one of them will be cities and townships. Usually if you've got a difference in a city township, it'll tell you what parcel it is and you can go check that out. Your last one is going to give errors, possible errors. And we'll just walk through those quick for new folks. One of the errors is land calc is not found, tax values are used. So this is an ag parcel. It does not have a land calc record, so we use the tax values instead. When that happens, there's less data in the tax system, so any difference between the land value and the tillable value is gonna be in option 73. Just in case you're go looking for that, that's where that gets put. This one, additional HGA values, that thing, we're seeing more than one HGA. That's gonna get put in to their, the 35 and the 40 lines. Again, if you're looking for that, those values, this is just directing you where to find them. If you don't, if there isn't an additional HGA, you might wanna go change some of your data. This one is again telling you it's a fractional HGA, so you have an HGA, but some of that data is gonna go into 35 and 40, some of it is gonna go into 180, whatever, however the fraction works out. And then the last one's land calc values, but no state class. That says, look at land calc, and you probably have a value there, but you don't have a state class, and so we can't put it into your abstract. The following error is land calc record and state class, but there's no abstract number, meaning you have the data in your land calc, but there isn't an abstract number in the setup. And so again, we don't know where to put that in your abstract. The last one, land calc and tax site values are not the same. They just don't match. You might want to look at it. So then once you list your fall mini, look at our edits, fix as many as you can, we suggest that you spot check to proof. You can do that a few ways. You can print previous years. In option 7 will give you a listing of the last 2 and the current, so that you can kind of look for any major differences. You can pull up, or here you can generate option 9, previous mini abstracts if you're newish, if you're not certain that your abstract looks the way you want it to. You can also proof totals. So if you take your valuation listing, and your market value, it should match your market value. Or you can use your assessment summary. The assessment summary's got both the taxable market value, which should match the market value we added to the bottom here, and mini abstract listing, where your totals should be the same. Pick, a couple townships, or what did you say, a township and a city, and do some proofing, as much proofing as you feel like you need to do. We do suggest that you check your plats. Make sure you've updated those plats, check your exclusions. That's right, it's going off the right-hand side too. Can you make the screen wider? No, he's not gonna make the screen wider. So if you could see over here on the right, you would see that it says 149.9 in the total, and then there's only one listing over here because all of my plats are in the same, are all residential, so that's where they're going. Okay. So that's the spring mini. Does anyone have anything they feel like they need to add, or a question they wanted to ask on that? This is where we switch. Okay. I trained as a math teacher. Welcome to my class. We're switching to the classroom participation section of the class. And so we're going into finalizing your abstract. We sent this out now because we need you to run it and prove it to make sure that we don't have any present issues. But this is also what you will give to your auditor when you're saying, I'm done with my files, and you can take them and you can use them for TNTs, or I'm done with my files, now they're yours for taxes. And we've had a couple of new-ish assessors who reached out to us this past year and said, I feel like I should be doing more than is in the sequence. The sequences for PRISM, what are other assessors doing to finalize their files? And we connected those assessors with other seasoned assessors so they could pick their brains, and they shared some data back with us and said, could you maybe reach out to other people or see what's going on? So this is me reaching out. This is both this in my slides. I have the data that's in our sequence and some of the other information that maybe some seasoned assessors gave us, like, I also look at this, I also run that to make sure that my files are as clean as they can be before we start doing taxes off of them. As we go through this, if you're a new person and you have a question like, well, why would you do that? Or, how is there anything else we can do? I did this and it wasn't enough. Please speak up, because we have a room full of assessors who you can ask, and you don't have to make a million phone calls. if you're a seasoned assessor and I say something and you're like, oh, we also run this, please speak up. We are going to upload the data for this presentation sometime next week and send you, the Zoom and all this. I can change these so that our new assessors can go back and use them as a reference for what other assessors do. So if you think of it today, that would be great, because then we can have conversation around it. If you don't think of it till you get back or next week, send me an email and we'll get it in here as a reference for people who might need it. So we're gonna finalize our four-year abstract, finalizing for your auditor. You wanna finalize your parcel details. Look at your values, your splits and combinations, your assessment codes, homestead choice codes, MP groups, and numbers. We did run into, y'all sat there so quietly earlier. We did run into around in April when we ran, you said not to say PTR, property tax refund. When the auditors ran property tax refunds, there were some counties where there were MP issues or, oh, I forgot to change that assessment code, things that we caught. And so to catch those things in January instead of in April, when it's too late and we have to now, deal with it in our treasurer's file, those social security edits that Liz ran through in tax M11, options 2 and 3, 2 is going to give you that list of names where it's like this person's name changed and the social security doesn't match social security. That might be a good place to catch some of those things. Number 3 is going to give you errors. Go look at those errors and fix those files. This was a good place to maybe catch some of those. Oops, we forgot to change an assessment code. We changed the assessment code, but we forgot to change the MP group, something like that. Just keep those files clean. Anything else anyone does for that? Another thing to look at is cross-county.
We added the actual listing of the property refund tax output to assessment and over on the right that you can run anytime you see how your property tax refund is coming out. Where? Tax M11.
Can I pull that up?
Yep. And after, they can run it as soon as they publish.
Okay, so the other thing you can do, we might circle back to that, there's discussion. The other thing you can do is look at your cross-county parcels. Liz ran through that, make sure those are up to date. You might want to just give that a quick look through, make sure you've done everything. You've shared with your neighbor counties, you've double checked your files. You can reference that cross-county sequence at any time. Make sure you've got that data all updated. You can also look at your activities file. You can look at your activity file anytime, and it's in your miscellaneous menu, that tax C10 option 19. It'll show you the last set of dates that you ran it for. And so you can run it for the next set of dates and make sure that you're, keeping up and what you want being done is being done. Once you pick your dates, or, you can make that general, or you can give it one date and look for certain times a day. For our purpose, you might want to take a general and look for what things have changed. What did I change in cross county? What did I change? If there's something, if you made changes in a certain area or you didn't want there to be changes in a certain area, you can certainly use this menu to look for any data that may have changed the way you didn't want it to. Or if you have a external list that you want to check against to make sure it's all gotten into the system. You can pull a lot of that data through your activity files. You want to finalize your data in LangCalc and CAMA, run your edits, create your files, make sure you've transferred that over. We want all the newest information. Make sure you've got your newest information in your tax billing info before you move forward. You can do percentage increase and decreases in your tax billing. That's in tax M11. Keep in mind, this is most often done in LangCalc and CAMA. This is not a what if. These changes are immediate, they're permanent, they're going to change your files. there was a question about that at one point. So you certainly can do it, in your tax system. We don't see most people doing it there anymore, but that is an option. Make sure you have backed up your files before you do it so that if you make changes and you want to go back, you can. And then there are miscellaneous listings you can look at. The veterans exclusion is a great one to look at. If you have any contamination tax going on, you would run that option. A lot of that goes with these applications. Make sure you've processed all of your homestead, all of your special ag, all of your blind disabled, all of your disabled vet, all of your exempt. Double check your state assessed, your railroad. Y'all are so quiet. Classroom participation, great. Minus points. No. You can run your system edits. The two system edits we talked about with the prism, with the fall mini, and then all the prism edits. You know, those are great for prism, but they're also great for double checking your file. All the edits are helpful to run before you decide that your abstract is finalized. And then make sure before you go into that abstract that your TIF is updated, whether you update it or another office updates it. You want to make sure you have all of your tax financing districts in there, and that your parcels and values are up to date. You've taken care of any splits, etc., because that will affect your TC count. And then you can calc your tax capacity. When you calc your tax capacity, it also does the TIF calc now. So calc your tax capacity, again, check your error listing. There'll be an error listing that's run. You want to look at that and see if there's any issues that were found. And then you can go into your miscellaneous menu again and run your option 11 MP listing. You can check all your MPs, but you really also want to look for these little warnings. That's saying something looks goofy with this parcel. Check and make sure that everything is good. You want to run that after your TC calc so that if there's a warning that would go with your tax capacity, it gets caught. And then we suggest relisting your system edit. You can do this anytime. This is your option 19, system edit 1, and say yes to your tax capacity so that you're catching any edits that would come with tax capacity values. We're getting toward the end of this. Anyone think of something else that they do to clean up their files? Something that I have not said out loud that would be helpful for someone to make sure your files are as clean as they can be before you say, yeah, I'm done with this.
On your MP edit listings,
MP edit listings. Which ones are you talking about? What menu?
just making sure that all your MPs are correct. That all your,
So like this option 11 MP listing.
yes. And we're also double checking to make sure that if you bought a piece of property and it was not homestead, and it's still MP'd to somebody else in their homestead, we want to make sure that we're getting those all moved over.
Right, so if you bought a piece of property and that MP now needs to move to you, that it's not MP to someone else. What do you run that flags that for you?
We run all the MPs.
Run all the MPs?
Yep.
You don't happen to know where they are? If you think of it, you can send me an email too.
Yep.
Yep, send me an email and we can add those listings because it'd be helpful to tell people, you know, go here and run this. Thank you for that. Any other thoughts? Double check new construction.
I've done any building adjustment or base rate changes.
Building,
Yes, in our new construction, we have to update that.
building adjustments or base rate changes, you'd update your new construction. And do you run something specifically in the system that helps you check that?
Yeah, but I don't know where it's at.
Could you send me an email? Thank you. We'll add that to here. That's a great one. Anything else? If anything comes to you, again, send me an email. We'll get that added to here. So once you've done all that, you've done all your edits, everything looks good, then we're gonna accumulate our abstract. Remember that, well, we might add tax capacity calc to accumulate abstract, because we do see every once in a while where someone has calculated tax capacity or needed to recalculate tax capacity. They made changes and then they went to accumulate and it didn't pull through because you have to calculate your tax capacity, then you have to accumulate, then you have to list. Does anyone have an objection? Tax capacity calc takes a little while. Accumulate abstract takes a little while, but it's not something, accumulating your abstract isn't something you're doing every day. Do we have any objections to adding the tax capacity calc to this option? It would still be its own option. You can do it whenever you want to, but adding it to this option. So now every time you accumulate, we make sure you have a fresh TC calc. I'm seeing nods, but I think that's like, yes, this would be a good idea, not
Yes,
object. Yeah. So, that's something that we'll look at doing, and it may be something we can actually apply to the old program because it will pull through to the new, tax. But we'll let you know if we add that. For now, you have to make sure you calculate your tax capacity calc. Then you have to accumulate your abstract and then listing. We've also seen a couple times where someone calculated their tax capacity and then listed their abstract, but didn't reaccumulate. You're not pulling that new TC calc in unless you reaccumulate your abstract again before listing it. So calculate your TC, check your edit, accumulate your abstract, and then list your abstract. So when we list our abstract, we recommend running it by township and by county to proof it. You can run it any way you want to look at it, but proofing it by township and by county anyway. This abstract is going to run TC values. If you want market values instead, you can put in Y where we have the N there. This is one of those nice ones that you can create as a PDF. And then you can do some, basic proofing of totals. If you go in and you look at your assessment summary, those market value totals and the TC totals should match your abstract. If they don't, if there's any issues, you can certainly use the checklist that was sent out and report generator to get those listings and try to figure out where there's something goofy. If you have issues, you can certainly, if you have a difficult time reading this or figuring it out, you can certainly reach out to us. But otherwise, spot check your abstract. Again, if you're not used to what this could look like, pulling up the previous year and comparing to make sure nothing looks like it's changed dramatically that you didn't want to, realize it's not going to match exactly, obviously. That's it for me. So if you think of anything else that would be helpful for new assessors, please send the idea our way, and we will just put out a document that says, here's what other assessors do. You do what you want, but here's the things that we've gotten from other assessors. We promise not to out you. We won't use your name. We won't say, Val says you need to do this. Although sometimes when you call me, I will tell you Val says, but otherwise we don't out people if they're not Val. We won't use names. We'll just add to the list. Here's other things that other assessors do. Other than that, I think Mike and Gwen, we're gonna finish. You had some info to share at the end here.
So we'll wind up with, just a recap of where our e-CAMA, e-tax, web yeah, tax web is at. So our report generator is really coming along. I think within the next couple of weeks, we're ready to release it to county testing, and we have like 3 counties lined up that will test it for us. We're also coming up with a way that from your green screen, you will take the options, well, this is after it's loaded and after we run a conversion, because you will see your old report generators. I don't know if the word old is proper, but the ones you currently have. We will convert them to the new system, so you will see them. So we'll have to run a conversion, and then your menus, your green screen menus will have a way to go open the new report generator. So we can get that out before the rest of it comes. The next step is our eCama land count. That is, we're hoping to have our testers going by county testers. We're testing in-house. Our county testers going by the end of September, early October. And we have 2 counties lined up to do that. If there would be a 3rd or a 4th that would like to volunteer, just contact Jeff or Mike or myself, and we'll be happy to have, I don't think we can go higher than 4. I don't think so, and keep everything in its place.
One thing with the new CAMA too, is that we're using something called Active Directory. So what it is we'll have to work with your IT on setting that up for testing even, because what it does, it uses a single sign-on where it'd be the same as your same username and password as your network login. So we would be working with your IT staff to set that up, but that's another piece of that.
And the nice part is after we get that set up, then when we roll into the assessor's portion of e-tax, we won't have to go back and do that piece again. That will be all ready. So it will just be loading your assessor's options, and eCam land help is all part of e-tax. So it should just seamlessly go into that, or that's the hope anyway. Okay, so the bottom line is you will see report generator, I believe all of you by the end of the year. Land calc, CAMA. I'm hoping that by the first of the year, we can have some of you on the new system. And then as we go, just start adding. We're hoping that when we talk about the assessor's portion of e-tax, that we can do, I don't know if I can promise that all of you will do valuation notices on the new system. That would be great. I hope so, but I don't know if we'll get there. But at least a portion of you, brave soul, will do that, we hope.
Kind of depends what comes up in testing too.
Yeah. All right,
I'm not really willing to switch a system in January, February when I'm trying to set values.
I would assume so, yeah.
Don't scare me.
So we would need to be loaded before that. Yeah, and that makes sense. So we will hope that we can get there. Yeah.
Our tax web, which is the public facing side of the tax information, value information, we have been rolling out. 6 counties right now, I think, are using it, are testing it. Well, two using it, and 4 testing it right now that will be going live with it. But we are kind of in the process, and I think we're to the point where we could start rolling out more people on that. So we'll probably be contacting usually the assessor and the auditor treasurer side of that to check it over, to take a look at it before we roll it out. Anything else?
If you want to volunteer,
Yeah.
we're ready for
And
you.
the way we've been rolling that out, we've been rolling out like a test line for it, so that we can give it to some, people in the county to test and to look at before we actually go live with it. Or before the county goes live with it. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? I just- All right, I think that's what we have for today. Thank you all for coming and got notes on everything we discussed.